Hey guys, welcome to the video here in the southern Philippines. Today I want to talk about some of the lessons that I learned running a law firm and being a lawyer for almost 2 decades about money, and how being an entrepreneur and running my own business, running a law firm, and what I learned from my clients allowed me to learn about money, and so that it made traveling the world and becoming a nomad or a remote worker and living in the Philippines possible while still earning in US dollars. And these lessons came from a combination of things. For instance, one is just running to learn a business and how to make sure that you're making the most profit from the use of your time and your resources. And a lot of it just came from dealing with clients, and really 2 different types of clients that I learned more about money than anywhere else. And one of them was dealing with other entrepreneurs, people who are out there risking their time, risking their capital, running businesses, and what they were doing that was either making them money or saving them money. And then another one, and this was a huge lesson that I did for really the first decade of my law practice, was dealing with clients in divorces and seeing the economic catastrophe that happened there and what good decision making and poor decision making led to about certainties and uncertainties about money. So I'll jump now into the 4 things that I learned, and maybe this can help you if you decide to go abroad, because I think they're pretty universally applicable to if you're living in the Philippines, you're living in Thailand, you're going to Europe, anywhere that you're going to go where you're going to earn a Western hard currency and spend in a local currency. So a huge lesson that I learned was that you can always make more money. And I saw various clients, especially in divorces and stuff, that simply weren't willing to walk away from what they had when the time that they could have spent making more money would have ended up getting them more resources than what they were trying to hold on to and trying to save. So it's possible to actually, once you know what you're doing to try to make money in entrepreneurship, in remote work, is that you can actually walk away from that, you can lose everything, and you can go back and make more. And so that's one thing that when people go abroad who are not already retired and that they're working on either remote work or they're working on entrepreneurship, is one of the big worries is that they're going to lose everything, and that they're not going to they're going to lose all the money they invest in it. And then realistically, what is the worst thing that's going to happen? And the answer to that is that you'll have to go back home and make more money again. And once you have those skills, once you've learned those skills to initially get that money without having to work directly for a company, you can always go back and recreate that. And I saw that time and time again with entrepreneurs that I was representing in divorce cases, that they would literally lose half of what they'd made, or sometimes in some cases more, because they would spend so much on the proceedings that not only did they walk away with only half, it was half of a lot less because they had spent so much fighting to keep what they had got, where if they had simply made a deal early on, not fought as hard, invested their time and resources back into making money, they would have been much farther ahead. And that thing holds true for when you go overseas as well. A very hard lesson, and the second one that I had to learn running my own business and being an attorney, is that I had to value my time and what I was going to accomplish with that time for what it's worth. And anything that was worth less than what I could earn at my hourly rate or whatever I was charging for someone, I needed to outsource that. So when I first started my firm, right out of law school, I'd always mowed my own yard. I'd always done my own yard work. And you know, as I got up and got a bigger house, it became more and more of a burden. I didn't mind it, but it was taking up time. So when I first started practicing law, I was only making $125 an hour. But I easily could have, rather than work on my yard for 2 hours on the weekend, paid somebody $50 every 2 weeks to take care of it, and I dedicated an extra 1 hour a week, and I would have made more money than what I would have paying somebody else to do it. And that goes for basically any lower skilled thing in whatever business or entrepreneurship that you have, whether you're working online, whether you're working remotely, is unless you've got tons of time on your hands, if you can get people to pay you for what your time is worth and pay somebody else for less skilled tasks that you're going to spend half as much or even more on, you're far better off economically doing that, although it's very, very hard to let go, because a lot of people think that they're wasting money paying somebody to do that when they can simply do it themselves. Third, and this was a big life lesson for me I learned from my clients, is that there are no guarantees. So just because you're working for a corporation or a major company that's been around for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, that's no guarantee that your job is any more secure really than the entrepreneur who's out there making everything with their own two hands. And I saw a lot of this in my practice, especially again during divorce cases. And so what was a reoccurring role early in my career was these companies that had manufacturing jobs that were relocating outside the United States. Literally, they were packing up. Many of them had gone across the border to Mexico because of the NAFTA and things, and the labor was just much cheaper there. And people who had worked at these companies for 20 years in very high-skilled and high-paying professions, sometimes whether they were doing the books or they were doing something in management at these places, or if they were just working on manufacturing on the line jobs, even if they weren't supervisory, they were making a lot more money. And when they lost those jobs, even though they got some sort of a severance package when those companies went overseas, they were never able to recreate the amount of money they were working for these supposedly stable jobs that they had been loyal to and been at for 2 decades. And because of that, a lot of times they ended up in my office dealing with divorce, because I was mostly representing men in those cases, and their wives decided that they could get a better standard of living without them now that those incomes had dropped. And so you really don't have stability just because you're working for a company, and the more control you actually have over your own destiny and the money that you make, you're actually really safer once you've got that figured out. Finally, and probably the best lesson I learned, was about diversifying your streams of income. And there's all kinds of stuff that's been a fad on the internet forever that you have to have. You know, you're getting annuity income from one place, you're trading time for dollars in another, you've got a side hustle that's bringing in some money, and that's all great and good, but diversifying your streams of income doesn't necessarily have to be from multiple different endeavors or business entries. So the way that I had it in my law practice, when I was at the height of my brick and mortar law practice back in the United States, was my streams of income, specifically my client acquisition costs or client acquisition streams, were coming in from multiple different places. So I had what's called a blog. It's basically a website where you put articles up on it, people find it, it's very search friendly, people find that. They would then come, read my articles, you know, understand that I knew what I was talking about, it was applicable to their situation, and they would call me and hire me. And so every year after I launched that blog, again, that was just a lead generation tool, I would make anywhere between $40,000 and $60,000 a year like clockwork. Never really more than that, never really less, but that's a pretty good one stream of income coming in. In addition to that, about 25% of my total practice at the height was from referral income from pre-existing clients. In other words, people that had hired me before, or them recommending me out to their family and friends, or also different lawyers who would send work to me, their clients, in a field that they didn't practice in or that they didn't specialize in, and that I did. And then an additional stream of income I had was from one referral source, which turned out to hurt later on, but it was about 18 to 20% of my business in any given year, and it was from a judge who had been a trial attorney for like 20 years. And as his former clients came into him, or people that knew him well in the community, he was sending them to me. Again, he didn't know me privately, he knew me through the court system as a judge, but he wanted to send his clients to somebody that was going to take good care of them. I'd tried enough cases in front of him that he knew that I would. And then I had other different avenues there to where at one point, really, I guess I was probably 8 years into my practice, that I stopped doing all paid advertising. Not because it didn't work, but because I had enough streams, approximately 5 different streams of client acquisition, that if one of those got cut off, I would still have at least 4 other streams coming in. And so eventually, the judge example that I gave you, that did get cut off, so I lost about 18 to 20% of my incoming client referrals Wasn't because of anything I did, it was just his son graduated law school, started his own practice, and of course that was where he was going to send those leads from now on. But because I had those other 4 or 5 streams, although I took a slight hit in income for that, I still had enough to run my practice, make a living, and then go out and acquire other streams to replace that one. And you can apply that when you come overseas, and it's really a necessity, because if all you're doing is remote working for one company and you lose that, you're going to have to go and try to find another job. But if you've got some other, even if it's not enough to pay all of your expenses, even if it's just enough to buffer the loss and cut into what your monthly expenses are, at least you've got a diversified stream of income coming in to offset it when you lose that. And that's incredibly important, especially when you go overseas, and to have redundancy on those. Gang, I don't know if that helped anybody or not. I hope it does. I hope that it's not a step-by-step blueprint, but hopefully it's enough to have kind of, a 10,000 foot overview of what I learned about money, about making money, about not holding on to stuff, and going forward, that it gives you an idea of when you are trying to make money as you go overseas, if you're going to work remotely, if you're going to do entrepreneurship, that those things can actually help you to either make money, to save money, or to make sure you don't get caught in a pickle. Guys, if you like this content, go ahead and subscribe so you can find me again. Like it if it was helpful. Leave a comment below if you know of anything else that helps or something that resonates that I've talked about that you want me to talk about more.